Hey guys, tonight we find ourselves creeping into the dusty corners of history, unearthing treasures that could take you on a wild ride through time. Imagine the scent of ancient parchment, the whispers of bustling merchants surrounded by fragrant spices and exotic goods. But hold on, let's be real. You probably won't survive this chaotic labyrinth of 11th century Chinese markets where confusion reigns and money, as we know it, is a bizarre enigma. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And go ahead, drop your location and local time in the comments. Are you snuggled up in your bed or just about to brave the chilly night? All right, got your cozy spot. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You stumble upon an ancient map in your attic, its edges frayed and ink faded, hinting at a hidden treasure somewhere deep in time. One somewhat reckless turn of the map reveals an intriguing route leading to the heart of 11th century China. You close your eyes and feel the weight of the map as if it's pulsating with untold stories. You're on the brink of an adventure, one where paper money swirls in confusion around merchants bustling in the markets of Kaifeng. Imagine walking through that crowded bazaar, the clamor of shouting merchants selling silk and spices mingling with the scent of fresh lychee. But what really grips your imagination is the sound of jingling coins and the crackle of fresh banknotes. Except, these aren't your average slips of paper. Oh no. You would soon find out that this era was perfect for drama, as it marked China's first steps into the world of paper money. Historians still argue whether the process was a moment of genius or a muddled mess. Suddenly, a group of merchants catch your eye. They look perplexed, peering suspiciously at what appears to be a paper note. It's not that they've never seen money before, it's just that their understanding of value is, let's say, a bit more tactile. They've relied on tangible items, gold, silver, and intricate goods, to measure wealth for centuries. Imagine their disbelief when confronted with these banknotes, representing value but lacking any physical substance. It's akin to telling you that your digital wallet is somehow a treasure chest. You'd probably roll your eyes in skepticism, or just wonder if you've been tricked. As you wander deeper into this vibrant chaos, you happen upon a merchant's booth overflowing with colorful textiles. The merchant's name is Zhang, and he's waving a paper note above his head like a flag of surrender, one worth 10 strings of silk. But hold on a second. You see him turning to his friend Liu and muttering about whether this paper thing could ever be trusted. In these lively exchanges, you overhear Zhang ranting about how last week, some fool tried to buy a rare jade piece with a bundle of these notes. Liu chuckles, adding that if only the jade itself could dance. You can't help but wonder just how often these merchants find themselves swimming in confusion between the material world they know and this new paper currency that floated into their lives. While you lean closer, the bustling bazaar seems to shift around you, vibrant colors turning vivid and sounds melting away, pouring on the thick air of misunderstanding. Zhang crumples the note in frustration, and you can almost see the years of ancient wisdom flickering like a candle in a gust of wind. What makes this money worth anything at all? You feel a pang of sympathy for them, caught in a time where understanding and belief in this money are tenuously tethered. Historians still debate whether the introduction of paper money sparked innovation or led to a deceptive disaster. The merchant's conflict showcases your own inner struggle with these concepts, value, perception, and trust, and you can imagine their heads spinning with economic theories. Imagine they're called paper money enthusiasts, but for many, it's like being asked to believe in ghosts when all they can touch are stones and clay. Strange bedfellows indeed. Just then, as you pace through this dreamlike bazaar, darkness falls akin to the confusion settling over a foggy field. Merchants grumbling, counter-arguments bouncing back and forth, and whispers of real money floating like wisps of smoke. You get a taste of that deep-rooted skepticism surrounding paper money, which has certainly become the cornerstone of modern economies. But here, it's almost as if that world has collided with a strange new planet where cash is a fleeting concept. Now, as you're lost in thought amongst these time-shifting merchants, a colorful flyer from a nearby booth grabs your attention. It promises a lecture on the future of trade. You marvel at the audacity of it. It's as if you're in a movie plotting a plot twist. Will they accept paper money, or will they simply refuse it and chuck their wares into the nearest river? Certainly, a nerve-wracking conundrum for these merchants. A soft chuckle escapes you thinking about how this nervous energy mingles with the vibrancy of their surroundings. How can these merchants navigate a world where they must choose between what they know and the strange deception of paper they cannot feel? The map crinkles under your fingers as you wonder how many hypothetical adventures lie within. These merchants, with their driven faces, prepare to either embrace the unknown or cast aside whispers of fake currency, anchored in relatable skepticism. They might be merely characters in your mind, but oh, what tales they tell. As the model of confusion unfolds around you, you can almost feel their struggles deep in your bones. It envelops you like an old blanket, both warm and scratchy, a reminder of every time your present-day decisions felt completely bewildering. You find yourself yearning for clarity amid the riddles in the night. That's when a thought flits through your mind. Treasure isn't only found in treasures themselves, but in the collective narratives lives intertwined, whether in 11th century markets or your bustling modern streets. As you trace your fingers over the ancient parchment, the map comes alive, detailing winding trade routes that crisscrossed the vast empire. Each line pulsates with stories whispering of explorers who once braved the unfamiliar, their dreams glinting like dragon's gold. You can almost hear their voices, echoes of merchants convinced they would become legends, though they sometimes ended up as just another Wednesday's lunch special in the stomachs of hungry pirates. The map hints at a particular route that leads to southern ports, a whisper of tales that travelers spoke of while gathered around flickering lanterns. One such adventurer, Zhang He, is a name that resonates through history like a gong. Known for commanding one of the largest fleets the world had ever seen during the early 15th century. His journey spanned 7 voyages, aiming to establish Chinese power through trade and diplomacy. Every journey packed with careful planning, exotic treasures, and maybe a dragon or two. Well, in spirit, of course. Despite Zheng He's fame, the tales of lesser-known explorers linger in the shadows, waiting for someone like you to uncover them. The map's delicate ink artwork directs your gaze toward a smaller, less traveled route used by traders to Thailand, where legends say jangly merchant caravans would pop up to barter and swap stories. Historians still argue whether these merchants were actually adept at trade, or just fabulous storytellers trying to sell their latest inventions. Like that one guy who came up with the idea of edible paper. Though perfect for snacking, historians can't quite agree if it was so delicious that it never made it to market, or if it just ended up in lunchboxes instead. Curiosity tickles your mind as you picture the merchants, braving teeming jungles and surging rivers, trading everything from spices to silk. How did they navigate such complex networks without the convenience of modern GPS? Was it all intuition and adventurous spirit? Or were they employing the ancient equivalent of street signs that just read, "Make a right at the giant lotus flower"? Speaking of navigation, you can't help but chuckle at the thought. If only they had maps that came with a built-in compass, maybe they wouldn't keep ending up in someone's backyard instead of the bustling marketplace. You find yourself yearning to know more, flicking through the map's details like a menu at your favorite noodle house. What were their lives like? Did they start every day with a cup of tea and a morning pep talk? Did they ever wonder if their kids would be proud of them? Or if they would just roll their eyes at their dad's tales of daring escapes and endless conquests? Moving along, you notice a reference to an area that doesn't appear on any contemporary map. It's marked simply as the Lost Isles. Intrigued, you wonder which traders had claimed these territories, possibly lured there by the legends of endless wealth or the mysterious siren songs wafting from the waves. Though you have to admit, if you can hear the sea singing, it might just be a serious case of seasickness kicking in. Just then, you find a small opening on the edge of the parchment that suggests these isles may have links to ancient, mythical beasts. Imagine stumbling upon a merchant trying to sell you a pet dragon. The sight may be hot enough to roast marshmallows, but who could resist a little fire-breathing character accompanying them on their adventures? You chuckle, imagining how that conversation would go at the next town fair. Oh no, he's not a wild beast, just a quirky pet who likes to overheat the local snacks. Don't worry, he's been house-trained. As you dive deeper into the history marked by your fingertips, you stumble upon references to daring trades with foreign realms. The adventurers you read about are rich in stories, personalities, and quirks that can only be imagined. Take, for example, one merchant who reportedly tried to barter chicken feathers for a piece of rare jade. Apparently, his logic was solid. If jade is valuable, then what's a rare chicken feather worth? Maybe he was ahead of his time, launching the great chicken feather market of 1000 AD. Some think he just misplaced his actual goods during a particularly spirited trading festival, while others claim he was just winging it, pun intended. You ponder these connections as night envelops the world outside your window. The stars twinkle like the twinkling wares of the markets the merchants frequented. Just think, perhaps one of them gazed up at the same sky, bursting with dreams for their next voyage. Radicals may think these stories are just tall tales told to beguile children. But there's a magic here, a glorious alchemy of adventure and history that's begging to be rediscovered. As you stare at the ink swirling across the map, every intricate detail connecting with another piece of history, you realize how each past adventure ripples through time, seeking resonance with those daring enough to listen. Maybe one day, you could embark on your own adventure, guided not just by imaginary dragons, but by the endless spirit of exploration captured within this very parchment. With a yawn and a soft smile, you finally fold up the map, cradling it carefully, readying yourself to slip into a world of dreams where adventures are just a heartbeat away. As you touch the ancient map, your mind drifts through the currents of time to the 16th century, a time when treasure hunters, emboldened by tales of gold and glory, scoured the earth like peak season raccoons after a midnight feast. You can almost hear their raucous laughter echoing through the air, rich and full of life, as they gathered around flickering fires, toasting to mischief and the promise of untold riches. Each clink of their mugs sounds like a bell ringing in the distance, heralding the kind of camaraderie that formed as easily as a pirate's oath. Incredibly, these bold souls often believed that every good adventure began with a proper toast. It was said to be the essential ingredient for any treasure map, sudden spontaneous combustion, which, given your penchant for daydreaming, doesn't sound too far off from your latest escapade. You imagine brash captains boasting of their conquests, while deckhands recount their bathroom mishaps at sea, always underlining the paramount importance of not fighting over the last slice of hardtack. You never know how far you'll float off course in a hunger-induced argument. Those gatherings spark an image of finely dressed gentlemen and scraggly sailors engaging in wild barter, trading silk for spices, and perhaps, if history has its way, a tall tale for an extra mug of ale. In the midst of it, a merchant might shout, "Who needs a proper plan when you have a good map, and a treasure with a side of danger?" It's quite amusing how little some of these treasure seekers cared for the navigation when they had far more pressing matters at hand, like figuring out whether the sandwiches should be cut into triangles or rectangles. Amid the clinking of their goblets, you ponder the great search for gold. a game that didn't just claim lives, but also sparked one of the most entertaining debates among historians ever. Some claim treasure hunters were noble souls seeking fortune for their kingdoms, while others suggest they were just a ragtag group of adventurers more interested in the size of their treasure chests than any ethical compass. Historians still argue whether they were proud patriots or merely looters in search of gold, a discussion that could fill the loftiest lecture halls and the noisiest taverns alike. And just like that, you feel the weight of the world shift slightly toward the humorous side of treasure hunting. Picture a gold-dusted captain adorned in bling as his crew roars out, "Aye, let's search for the gold, but only after we finish our karaoke night." After all, what's a pirate without a bit of a tune? As you delve deeper into this era of exploration, the tales of peculiar finds come into view. There's the infamous tale of Captain Fiddlesticks, whose quest for gold ended in a remarkable discovery, a hoard of rubber ducks floating off a remote isle. The man never planned on discovering such a peculiar treasure, but after a long day of sailing, you can't blame him for turning them into inflatable companions and meme creators. Who knew history harbored so much whimsy amidst its gold? You shrug off the laugh as you continue imagining the joyful gatherings that somehow turned from fear of curses to contests about who could hold their liquor the longest. If only these treasure seekers could have known how their legacies would turn into conversations of spirit and mirth, and not just the pipe dreams of golden mansions. In these lively moments of merriment, you can see the glimmer of ambition working its charms. Pirates were not just about roaming the seas. Many were actively crafting their mythos. On the rare occasion when their dreams didn't lead to triumph, it wasn't such a sour note. Sometimes they ended up crafting sweet new stories to share at night instead. You see a thrilling irony in this, seeking gold, yet filling their bellies and hearts with humor and laughter instead. Despite the heavy risks, these adventurers didn't just gather gold. They gathered unforgettable stories to spin under the starlit skies over crucibles of fire. And what a splendid thought that is. All it took was a little courage to spark the magic that sent them spinning into seas of lore and camaraderie, while they toasted the hardships of life with a wink and a nervous laugh. So, as you lay there, drifting deeper into that haze of impending dreams, you acknowledge not just their quests for material treasure, but their innate need for connection and high spirits. You muse softly, realizing that your journeys, although quieter and less risky, can also hold the echo of laughter as you explore the magic of this world and the stories yet to be told. As the laughter of treasure hunters fades into the whispers of the night, you sense a chilling tale creeping in on the edges of your imagination. The infamous curse of the gold, an eerie notion that has haunted those on quests for riches throughout history. A shiver dances down your spine as you wonder, will this curse follow you on your own adventure? You remember hearing about a fellow treasure hunter, old Captain Blunder, who, after uncovering a trove of gold coins, mysteriously lost his left boot. Not just any boot, his lucky boot. Strangely, he was never quite able to figure out how to walk properly after that. If only the curse did a better job of targeting only the less fashion-savvy adventurers. Most of your friends would probably say the only curse that plagues your average treasure hunter is their inability to remember where they buried their own loot. A far worse fate than losing a shoe, if you ask them. Historians still argue whether the curse is just a myth meant to keep inexperienced treasure hunters at bay, or a legitimate peril, designed to learn those who dare disturb the resting places of fortunes. To add to the intrigue, there's the legend of the cursed gold of the Spanish galleon, Nuestra Señora de Atacha. When it sunk in 1622, not only was it carrying loads of gold, but also some seriously bad vibes that some say have cursed those who seek to lay claim to its treasure. You chuckle at the thought of pirates fainting at the mere mention of bad luck, wondering if they had developed their own version of yoga to cope with the stresses of treasure hunting. Then, just when you think your heart can calm down, your mind conjures the story of Juan the Jinxed, who opened a treasure chest only to find it filled to the brim with gold hemmed in with rusty nails. He claimed he was cursed for not wearing his lucky pirate hat. Researchers suggest that he was merely trying to hide his embarrassing fashion choices from his shipmates. But whether it truly was a curse or just Juan being, well, Juan, remains a fun topic amongst historians and weekend warriors alike. The rich history surrounding treasure hunting is packed with oddities that prompt both laughter and caution. You can't help but snicker at how quick some hunters are to believe a simple stretch of bad luck is somehow a haunting curse, while others seem blissfully unaware of the quirky folklore. Yet, as you contemplate joining the ranks of those daring souls in search of gold, you feel that familiar tug of excitement. Imagine if you stumbled across a hidden trove. What would you do then? Would you be the next treasure hunter to stumble upon an ancient relic and grace headlines? Or would you become part of that dubious lore of ill-fated adventurers? Maybe your first piece of treasure would be a solid gold rubber duck, definitely a conversation starter at any dockside tavern. With one last chuckle, your thoughts drift back to the vast ocean of options ahead of you. Perhaps the pursuit is about more than just gold. After all, it's the fascinating tales you weave, the friends you make along the way, and yes, maybe even the lessons learned. Like, don't mess with cursed treasures unless you're fully prepared to lose a shoe. Or worse, as you slip into a warm sense of slumber, your heart races with the anticipation of future journeys, rich with stories, camaraderie, and yes, perhaps a little touch of mischief. Who knows what mysterious treasures await just beyond your dreams? The treasure seekers may have faced their curses, but you embark on a journey where every stumble and every laugh becomes a golden memory, shining brightly in your ever-expanding tale. You drift off into a peaceful sleep, imaginations of grand adventures mingling with whispers of fate. You can almost hear the echo of the waves, promising that tomorrow, perhaps your own unique adventure awaits. As the night deepens, you find yourself in the cozy company of your friend Gregor, a quirky historian with a penchant for all things eccentric. He leaps into your abode wearing a remarkably oversized pirate hat that flops over his eyes. "Avast, matey," he shouts, startling the cat, who promptly vanishes under the couch. You can't help but giggle at his commitment. It's not every day you invite a historian who believes the spirit of adventure requires at least 5 accessories, one of which happens to be a flashy eye patch. In between laughter, Gregor launches into a tale about medieval explorers who famously sought new routes for trade. "Did you know," he starts dramatically, adjusting his hat, "that the magnetic compass was introduced to Europe from China in the 12th century? It was a critical moment that turned navigational chaos into organized oceanic fun, helping explorers like Vasco da Gama and Christopher Columbus steer their ships away from perilous rocks and toward adventure." But here's where it gets really wacky. Gregor insists that some explorers thought the sun was a giant egg yolk that would crack open to reveal all their golden dreams. "Picture this," he says, striking a pose like a seasoned thespian. A brave crew sailing about, their eyes set high, all the while trying to figure out how to fry that egg without burning down their ships. You can't contain a chuckle. What do you call a pirate on the first day of spring? You quip, and Gregor, feigning deep thought, replies, "A thawed buccaneer." He transitions from one quirky nugget to another, sharing tales that land somewhere between absurdity and genius. And just think about the rumors surrounding Marco Polo's travels. Historians still argue whether he actually reached China or simply exaggerated his way through a series of enthusiastic dinner parties in Italy. I mean, maybe he wanted to impress his friends with stories of 3-legged dragons and opulent palaces. As Gregor dives further into the bizarre, some tales about explorers mistaking manatees for mermaids. For instance, you feel your consciousness drifting upright as if aboard one of those sails. Each story is woven with a thread of charm and absurdity, adding richness to your night marinated in dreams. Okay, one last joke, Gregor says, brandishing a faux sword. What did the ocean say to the pirate? Nothing, it just waved. His terrible timing falls flat, and you dissolve into laughter, your giggles echoing softly like waves against the shoreline. Each burst of laughter feels like tiny gold coins filling your treasure chest of memories. As the moonlight spills across your living room, you lean back, entranced by the enchantment of historical tales that spin like stars above. You can't help but feel that perhaps, for every wild story of impostors and fanciful legends told through the ages, there lies a tiny spark, a kernel of truth hidden within the humor and chaos. You begin to see that these myths, whether about three-legged dragons or enchanted egg yolks, weave through history, creating connections that bind you to countless adventurers long gone, each contributing to a collective tapestry of what it truly means to explore. You glance at Gregor, now in the midst of molding a thick pirate accent as he blusters about searching for buried treasure in the neighbor's yard. With every exaggerated inflection, it's like he's casting a spell to invigorate your imagination. Sleep becomes a gentle beckon, urging you to drift into dreams of far-off lands, quirky companions, and maybe, just maybe, a little truth lurking beneath the waves. You bid Gregor good night, the laughter still dancing in the air, as you gently close your eyes, drifting softly into an ocean of dreams where all the strange stories swirl around like fish in a warm tide. Each tale whispers to you, reminding you that tomorrow brings new adventures, whether they involve paper money, ambitious explorers, or charming historians dressed as pirates. With playful enthusiasm, you and Gregor harness the gentle breeze of dawn, ready to embark on your fantastical voyage across the shimmering sea. Gregor, despite his pirate attire, doesn't actually have a ship, but he swears you'll magically manifest one. Ahoy, matey, he bellows, clutching a rubber duck as if it were a pearl-encrusted compass. Let's find our oceanic destiny. You can't help but chuckle. The picturesque horizon beckons you, yet Gregor's antics ground the moment in delightful absurdity. As you wander a few steps, the world around you transforms. The familiar creaks of wood and ropes come alive, and suddenly, you find yourselves aboard a majestic ship, sails billowing like the chest of a proud captain. The ocean is vast and endless, the horizon painted with strokes of gold and indigo. The salty air fills your lungs, fragrant with the promise of adventure. Historians often note that during the 11th century, the Song dynasty in China brought great advancements in trade. But let's be honest. If there was an award for the very first seafarers to lose their sandwiches at sea, those would go to the lot of explorers who set out before you. Gregor insists that explorations were often marred by hungry crew members fighting over the last piece of hardtack, which means everyone was technically an early pirate. Arguably, that explains the origins of X marks the spot for buried snacks. And just as you start to embrace the cool sea spray kissing your face, the whimsical outlook turns turbulent. A mischievous squall approaches from the east, swirling ominously. "No worries," Gregor exuberantly shouts, unbothered by the flash of a rogue wave. "Just pretend we've got 2 sets of oars." 2 sets of oars, you ponder aloud. Is that even a thing? "Ah, yes," he replies, mouth twitching with mirth. "1 set for rowing forward and another set for rowing backward in case we change our minds." You can't help but guffaw at the thought of a crew debating the merits of going back to shore when adventure becomes just too real. The storm passes with dramatic flair, leaving rainbows glimmering across the droplets of sea. A sense of calm returns, but the tranquility of the ocean doesn't last long. Suddenly, a pod of playful dolphins swims across your bow, leaping and spinning, their arcs of silver glistening in the warming light of the sun. You giggle at the sight. They seem to be showing off, dodging waves as if competing for gold medals in synchronized swimming. Among the most peculiar tidbits circulating the intellectual waters of time is the debate on whether these dolphins are trying to communicate with sailors, or if they just love showing off their flips. Historians still argue whether these majestic creatures possess a higher form of perception and understanding, or if they simply enjoy making humans smile with their antics. The playful dolphins soon lead you to a vibrant coral reef teeming with colors so vivid they would make any painter green with envy. But what catches your eye is a shimmering object half buried in the sand, sparkling under the sunlight. Without hesitation, you dive overboard, feeling the rush of cool water envelop you as you swim closer. "Look at me," you call out, splashing Gregor as he watches your clumsy dive. "I'm a real-life mermaid, or merperson. A merperson who needs a little swim lesson," he retorts, holding his stomach in laughter. Brushing aside the sand, you uncover what appears to be a treasure chest. With a squeal of glee, you motion for Gregor to join you. As he dives in beside you, both of you swim up to the surface, gasping for air like excited fish. With tentative excitement, you both pull the chest onto the ship after considerable effort. Fortunate enough to find a chisel among the supplies, Gregor tries to pry it open. After much theatrical effort, it finally creaks open, revealing a collection of artifacts from ages long past. A golden compass, ornate coins from kingdoms lost, and exquisite scrolls intricately inscribed with forgotten languages. Well, what do we have here?" Gregor muses, rubbing his chin like a sage. "This could make us the most influential pirates ever." He turns to you with a finch-like face, and in an exaggerated pirate growl quips, "Let's not squander our newfound wealth on ice cream, though." You can't help but laugh because, honestly, nothing sounds better than beachside ice cream as a reward for this entire escapade, especially after finding treasure. As the sun gradually sets, casting an orange glow across the sky, you realize this journey is about more than just the trinkets you've unearthed. It's also about the laughter shared, the camaraderie built against the infinite backdrop of the sea, and the magic that happens when you embrace the unexpected. The horizon stretches ahead, a promise of further adventures yet to unfold, and you whisper a small prayer to the universe. Because who wouldn't love an ice cream cone in the middle of this journey? You are still buzzing from the discovery of the treasure, laughter echoing in your ears when the horizon abruptly darkens. Thick, black clouds swirl like cotton candy gone rogue, slowly swallowing the sun. A gust of wind shudders your ship as the playful dolphins veer away in a hurry, their cheerful clicks replaced by ominous silence. "Well, this is just peachy," you murmur, clutching the railing tightly. Suddenly, the first wave crashes against the side of the ship, sending a spray of salty sea water over you, as if the ocean itself is shaking its head at your optimistic adventure. Gregor, the brave and absurdly optimistic companion you have, who insists puns are the pinnacle of humor, shouts above the chaos. "Looks like the weather decided to take us on a wet and wild adventure without asking for a ticket." You half laugh, half scream back. "You know, I'd rather pay for a calm cruise than a splash zone." The storm intensifies, the ship pitching violently. It feels like you're on a roller coaster that forgot to follow the safety guidelines. The map, your precious lifeline, flutters madly in your hands, shredded like old parchment in the wind. You squint at it desperately, wishing you had brought some sort of ocean-based GPS. But instead, you're left with whimsical drawings and vague lines that could very well lead you to a pirate's hangout or a bubble tea shop, depending on how well you're navigating. Your heart races as water begins bubbling over the sides, each wave crashing like an angry giant. As the craft shudders, a dark thought grips you. Will you end up adrift, lost at sea, the grand captain of a ghost ship? What would be your last meal? Who would write stories about your misadventure? Historians still argue whether the great Zheng He, who sailed the ocean centuries ago, was lucky or skilled. While you can't help but think this may be a bad mix of both right now. "Focus, focus," you shout to yourself, grounding your thoughts. This is not the time for wild daydreams. Right now, you've got to harness your inner explorer. You recall one of those peculiar tidbits you read. During the Renaissance, sailors sometimes believed that swallowing a live fish would ensure safe passage through treacherous waters. Not that you're keen on trying that right now. Besides, you had fish and chips yesterday. You grip the wheel. It's slippery beneath your fingers. You glance over at Gregor, who resembles a wind-battered scarecrow rather than your former seagoing joker. "Hey, if this ship goes down, I promise to haunt you," he jokes, flashing a brave grin despite the situation. "Like I need a ghost with bad puns following me around," you retort. Although somewhere deep inside, his humor calms your nerves a little. The storm continues to rage, an orchestra of thundering drums and crashing cymbals that seem to be challenging your resolve. You spot a gleam of light in the distance, breaking through the dark clouds. Your instincts pull you toward it. Whatever that shimmering figure may be, it could lead you to safety. Resolutely, you steer the ship, heart pounding in rhythm with the waves. Keeping the light in your sights, you feel the tension in your shoulders release slightly as purpose replaces your anxiety. As if it's answering your determination, the storm begins to withdraw. Fat raindrops now a gentle patter rather than a torrential downpour. "Are we getting closer or just recruiting more rain clouds?" Gregor teases, leaving you both chuckling through the danger. The light grows brighter, revealing itself as the silhouette of a nearby island framed by palm trees, an oasis amidst chaos. You cannot believe your eyes. You and Gregor exchange hopeful glances, the storm losing its bluster with each passing moment. You shift the ship toward the island, a newfound sense of adventure rising like the sun breaking through the stormy sky. But just as you're about to let out a whoop of triumph, a particularly mighty wave hits, causing the ship to sway alarmingly once more. "Steady, Captain," Gregor shouts, mimicking the overdramatic sailors you've encountered in taverns. "No need for awards yet. You've still got to park this beauty." As the last vestiges of the storm peel away, leaving behind a shimmering sky, you feel the fear loosening its grip. You are still here, still sailing, and for every wave that once felt full of chaos, there's a glimmering treasure waiting just beyond the shores of this tempest. As your ship glides smoothly toward the island, the gentle sound of waves rolling beneath you becomes your lullaby, leading you onward to the promise of new adventures. Together, through laughter and life's unpredictable storms. The storm may have tried to wash away your spirit, but the treasure of friendship and humor remains, shining brightly through the clouds as you navigate the last twist of this chaotic journey. As the calm sea embraces your ship in its gentle lull, you feel a sense of peace wash over you. The island looms closer, its palm trees swaying softly under the golden sun. Just as you bask in your newfound serenity, a strange mist blankets the area, creeping over the deck like a shy cat creeping out from under the bed. With a slight shiver running down your spine, you realize you're not alone. Ghostly figures materialize before you, glowing faintly under the midday sun. They're dressed in tattered, old-fashioned sailor garb and seem just as shocked to see you as you are to see them. Well, what do we have here? A living soul in our ghostly territory. You don't see that every day, do you, Barnaby? One of them quips, his translucent eyebrows raising in curiosity. You chuckle nervously, unsure if your eyes are playing tricks on you. But there's something comforting in their playful banter. Another ghost, with an unusually tall hat and a mustache that twirls upwards like the sails of your ship during a strong breeze, bows slightly, expecting to meet the crew of the Flying Dutchman. Too bad he's on leave. As they surround you, their laughter becomes infectious, and you can't help but feel at ease. You learn that they are a crew of long-lost sailors, eternally tethered to this island due to the odd fate dealing with the 8th voyage of a notorious merchant ship during the Song dynasty. Historians still argue whether it was the treacherous waters or their attempts to trade with hostile islands that led them to their watery fate. But here they are, ghosts with tailies and laughter as rich as the golden age of commerce they once lived in. So what do you, do for fun as ghosts? You can't resist asking because, hey, you've got a curiosity-piquing story right in front of you. One of the ghosts playfully rolls his eyes. Oh, you know the usual. Haunting old ships, watching the waves, and occasionally helping lost travelers seek their fortune. He gives you an unearthly wink. You'd be surprised how many times we've saved a ship from running aground. When you've floated around for centuries, you pick up a few tricks. As you explore the vibrant existence they share, the tall hat ghost recounts tales of their daring adventures, how they traversed vast seas filled with perilous storms, and how they nearly competed with treasure-laden crews. It almost sounds like a tall tale you'd tell at a campfire, but the glow in their eyes tells you otherwise. Another ghost pipes up, a shimmer of mischief in her voice. You think your life is hard with paper money. Let me tell you about the days of lack and scurvy. You nod, fully intrigued as she elaborates. You see, while our ship was heavy with gold and spices, we met another crew that had brought nothing but wooden tokens to trade. The whole deal turned sour because they couldn't convince the locals that wood was worth anything. You giggle, picturing the chaos. So you're telling me they walked around like, this is a rare piece of wood. It's like the Bitcoin of the 11th century. Exactly. It's like they didn't know they would never get full value out of it. Moral of the story, it's not about wooden tokens or paper notes. It's about the friendships and stories you make along the way. The sage advice resonates deeply, reminding you of the camaraderie you've shared with Gregor on this journey. Then one of the ghosts adds with a knowing nod. Plus, one too many board games lead to all sorts of hauntings. Played Risk. You lose a country, you lose your life, and then you're stuck with us. The atmosphere shifts as they share the lessons they learned during their lifetimes. The treasures weren't just in gold or spices, but in the bonds forged at sea and the laughter shared over crazy adventures. You feel a sense of connection, understanding that perhaps your journey mirrors theirs in more ways than you realize. By the way, can I pop by your campfire every now and then? Says Barnaby, grinning. You seem like the type who could use a spectral chef. We make the best ghost s'mores, very light on the calories. With a hearty chuckle, you point out you might just take him up on that, though you're still pondering how ghostly s'mores could possibly work. As the sun begins to set behind the horizon, casting a warm glow across the island, the ghostly crew gathers around you, sharing hauntingly delightful tales. You realize that amidst the laughter and friendship, you're learning lessons of value far beyond coins or paper notes. The whispers of history come alive, and you're grateful for the strange twist of fate that brought you here. Eventually, the mist swirls thicker, as if calling you to leave. The glowing spirits wave goodbye, their laughter intertwined with the sound of the waves. As they fade back into their ethereal realm, you carry the spirit of their tales with you. A reminder that life is richer with connections, stories, and the joy of each adventure. With a smile, you head back toward your ship, feeling lighter than air, ready to conquer whatever the world brings next. You study the map in your hands, its edges curling slightly from the salty breeze. What appears to be an ordinary island winks at you from the parchment, but your heart pounds as you consider the stories already told to you. Memories of the ghostly sailors linger, and they had left you with a certain joy, that the treasures you pursue aren't just coins or gems, but the tales woven along the way. As you set foot on the sandy shore, you remember something curious. Paper money was first introduced in China during the 11th century, aiming to ease trade across vast distances. But it seems today that you have a different treasure hunt ahead of you, one that might add value in ways far beyond currency. Each grain of sand slips between your fingers as you walk along the beach, the sound of the waves masking any thoughts of what you might find buried beneath. You pause, pondering the solidity of your footing and how fleeting elements can be, much like those 11th century merchants who tossed their wooden tokens into the ether of trade. You kneel down, beginning your exploration just where the tide has kissed the land. Suddenly, a glint catches your eye, revealing a small piece of something metallic just below the surface. Digging with your fingers, you uncover a rusty tin box, its hinges stubbornly clinging together as if guarding secrets from centuries past. You pry it open, half expecting pirate gold, but find something much quirkier. Recipes for ancient remedies and old postcards featuring weirdly smiling cats wearing hats. Seriously, who needs treasure chests when you can have cat fashion? Historians still argue whether such postcards existed during the Song dynasty, but you've inadvertently stumbled into something even more delightful than monetary artifacts: creativity. Each recipe whispers tales of old remedies, from a brew to cure the common cold. Good luck convincing 11th century folk that a blend of ginger and honey could defeat the sniffles, to a potion to attract friendship that curiously appears to require 5 rare herbs and intense karaoke sessions. You chuckle, realizing that friendship, like commerce, sometimes requires a little bit of song and a lot of spice. As you sift through the contents, the ghosts of the sailors return in your memory, their laughter echoing as if calling you back from thoughts of riches. You shake your head, enjoying the quirkiness of your findings. Who knew that your biggest discovery would revolve around wisdom collected in whimsical postcards rather than glittering gold? Wiping the sand from your fingers, you select a particular recipe for a calming tea blend, believing it could soothe your mind after all these adventures. After all, one cannot trade stories on an empty stomach, or in your case, an empty sleep-deprived brain. Before you know it, you find yourself gathering ingredients, imagining how you might share this newfound wisdom with others, replicating that connection you cherish. In the distance, a flock of birds swoops low over the water, casting shadows on the sand. It reminds you that you are not alone. Just like those ghostly sailors, every journey is enriched by the company you keep. Perhaps it's time to gather your own band of misfit friends and toast to the power of stories over a cup of calming tea. Content with your trove of curiosity and recipes, you turn back toward the path leading away from the beach. Each step feels lighter, each breath richer, and for the first time in a while, you don't feel the weight of expectation resting on your shoulders. Instead, you feel a bubbling excitement, the thrill of connection, the joy of laughter shared, and the endless potential of adventure ahead. As you walk away from the water, you ponder how you might share these quirky tales, adorning them with riddle-like elements of the past, and maybe even inventing a new culinary sensation with those remedies. Since when did learning involve hats and cats? But hey, anything's possible when you're amid historical adventures. Could you possibly create a new recipe book? Tea and tailies, anyone. You step onto the path deeper into the island, a grin firmly in place. Today was more than about treasure. It was a reminder of what truly nourishes the soul: connection, creativity, and a hint of ridiculousness that challenges you as you explore the unknown. Besides, who doesn't love a good cat postcard? As you sit comfortably among your friends, each sipping tea infused with stories and laughter, a rustle catches your attention. Shifting the weight of your body on the sand, you glance toward the horizon where a sleek boat cuts through the turquoise water like a knife through butter. Your heart sinks at the ominous sight. A rival treasure-hunting crew is headed your way. They appear just as brazen as their antics suggest, complete with matching t-shirts that read, "The Gold Diggers," and a comically large monocle on their captain's face. A wealth of confusion overtakes you, especially at the sight of someone wearing a monocle at the beach. Who are they trying to impress? The fish. As their boat glides closer, the laughter of the ghost sailors seems to fade, swallowed by a thick tension. You stand up, adjusting your backpack, the homemade recipes and postcards shifting slightly within. All the cozy feelings you just fostered with your friends begin to evaporate, replaced with an anxious energy as the crew anchors and jumps onto the shore. There's no mistaking their intent. They spot your gathered group and your newfound treasures, and their eyes glisten with envy. Who knew a box of quirky recipes could create such vulnerability? Was it simply the allure of the extraordinary or something deeper? Well, 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 what a lovely little gathering, the captain booms, grinning as if he hadn't just interrupted a serene moment. A shiver dances down your spine as you realize the captain's laughter sounds villainous, not unlike a cackling hen trying to signal its last egg. For a brief moment, you want to respond with a witty retort, but a sly glance at your friends reminds you that you all stand out here like pepper in a salt shaker. The crew outnumbers you 3-1. One of your friends, clenching their mug, murmurs to you, "Should we share the recipes?" You sigh, replaying a mantra in your head. Stay calm, stay calm. Maybe this crew really could use a lesson in culinary diplomacy. Still, you know that sharing food doesn't always mean sharing treasure. The disputes of whether to share or fight churn in your mind like a bubbling soup pot. All around the world, anthropologists and historians still argue whether food truly is the universal language. You can't help but wonder if tonight wouldn't be better as a side of jet-fueled fireworks instead of a multicultural kitchen party. The voice of a historian echoes in your mind, assuring you that bad cooking has led to far more memorable feuds than any fight for golden artifacts. You chuckle nervously at the thought, what if this standoff turned into a recipe duel instead? Ginger cookies or death, picture that. The pirate-like crew approaches, their raucous laughter filling the air. What do you have that makes you think you're special? They question, pointing at the box. Standard cat postcards, good luck. Your friend laughs silently, making a take-cover gesture to the now captive recipes. You want to stand your ground. After all, who are they to judge your treasure? In a fit of sudden bravery, you decide to address the group. If it's recipes you want, let's challenge each other to a cooking duel under the sunset. Winner takes all. Again, the shock of your audacity crashes over you like a wave hitting the shore. The crew stares for a moment, unable to process that you just offered a light-hearted baking competition as a peace treaty. No one expected cupcakes to diffuse the tension. The diggers stare slack-jawed, their captain stroking his non-existent beard and contemplating your proposition. All right, he finally concedes, but I warn you, our specialty is flambe surprise. What's a fancy name for a disaster anyway? The banter spirals, teasing swirls of rivalry enveloping you. But here lies the laughter of the ghost sailors again, weaving threads between you and those who once seemed like foes. You envision one of them flambeing so vigorously that they may inadvertently scare the sunset away, while your charming recipes are enveloped in possibilities and silly puns. Hey, at least your dish won't be the most half-baked idea, you chirp, hoping that the spark of friendly competition could foster respect instead of enmity. Teasing bounces back and forth until the tension diffuses into shared chuckles. The preparations begin. Both crews gather their ingredients from the beach and nearby trees. Suddenly, you feel the weight of adventure settle back into your bones. Who would have thought confrontation could lead to creativity and connection, proving yet again that when things get tough, humor is the best remedy of all. Your friends join in, blending each other's flavors and offering witty suggestions. As the sun starts to set, casting a golden hue over everything, you see laughter mixing with ambition like spices in a pot, keeping the competitive spirits high but light. Maybe, just maybe, this encounter could become a treasure of its own. When the two dishes are prepared and the sun dips below the horizon, illuminating the scene with a magical glow, the moment feels perfect. Regardless of who wins this quirky culinary contest, you all manage to create something extraordinary. A connection forged through laughter, silly recipes, and good-natured rivalry, proving that even rival adventurers can share a delightful experience, turning potential conflict into something far more treasured. You glance around at the gathered crew, their laughter still echoing in your ears, and a spark of mischief ignites in your mind. The last thing you want is for the rival treasure seekers to catch wind of your stash and declare it their own. With a conspiratorial grin, you gather everyone into a huddle. "What if we pull off a heist of our own?" you propose, excitement buzzing in the air like a firefly on a summer night. Your friends lean in, eyes gleaming. This is going to be epic. As you explain the plan, they chuckle at your cleverness. You detail how to fill your treasure chests with faux gold, namely, rocks wrapped in shiny foil. We might as well be pirates, right? Except with better fashion sense and fewer parrots. One of your friends snorts, and you can't help but laugh. Campfires crackle as you set up the ruse. Chests laden with the fancifully wrapped treasures are placed under an old tree, camouflaged by shrubbery. At the same time, you concoct a wild scenario. A staged heist that would involve a distraction strong enough to keep the rival crew occupied. Historians still argue whether or not the term distracted originated from the ancient art of thievery, but one thing is certain. Creating pandemonium while keeping your treasures safe sounds like a plan that'll go down in history, or at least in your campfire stories. As night descends, your crew bursts into fits of laughter connecting the dots between ninjas and dishwashing. You assign roles for the operation, a lookout, the bait, and the secret treasure guardians, before you dramatically declare, "And I shall be the one to carry the sacred chest of faux treasure." Everyone gasps playfully, their faces lighting up. It's kind of ridiculous thinking about it, like practicing opera in a noodle shop. Nobody asked for it, but now you can't unsee it. The moment arrives. You've laid out props in the clearing, fake coins clinking like butterflies in a jar, and your allies drop back like a tableau of statues, hidden behind bushes, all while you bond with your bait. You'll distract them, but if it goes south, remember, just throw the noodles. You whisper, a nod to your earlier duel. Sure enough, the rival crew rambles through the darkness, looking more like a circus troupe than a group of earnest treasure hunters. Their flamboyant captain, adorned in a cape that glints like the surface of a pond, is the first to approach with all the charm of a weathered rock. "What do we have here?" he inquires, eyes twinkling with mischief. You nod toward the fake chest and strike a pose as if you're ready to negotiate. "Oh, just some outdated fortune," you declare dramatically, making it sound like ancient scrolls you pulled from an attic. Your friends hold their breath, suppressing laughter as the captain squints at the marred rocks, confusion washing over his face. As if on cue, your bait gods into action, flinging noodles into the air while simultaneously reenacting a spaghetti western shootout. You can hardly believe your eyes as the rival crew bursts into uncontrollable laughter, temporarily distracted by the flying pasta. Seriously, is this a cooking competition, or are we trading? Their captain jokes, twirling noodles around his fingers, reminding you of a magician on stage. Meanwhile, you peek at your friends who are doubled over in laughter, waiting for your signal. Now's your chance. You sneak away, ticking off each step toward the treasure, as if you're eluding an ancient curse. You can barely contain your giggles as you reach the faux treasure. The rivals finally notice your vanishing act, and the captain rouses everyone from their noodle-inspired stupor. "Get them," he shouts, but they're too late. Your crew is back at the clearing, each one of you grinning as you cluster around with the treasure secured. Victory tastes sweet, like the steaming dumplings from last week's feast. "That was amazing," one of your friends exclaims, high-fiving you. The rivals, once adversaries, now cross the clearing and join in the laughter over the antics. As you all reminisce about the night, you think about the quirks of history. Did you know paper money was first issued in China during the Tang Dynasty? The concept transformed trade, and it's a wonder how quickly it caught on, much like how your crew quickly took over the spotlight with humor. Amid the jokes and camaraderie, you realize that every adventure, even one like this, leaves behind memories that sparkle as brightly as real gold. You find warmth in the extra laughter as the stars twinkle above, reminding you that sometimes the greatest treasures are the stories we weave together. The night deepens, filled with the magic of mischief and the laughter of newfound friends, leaving you wrapped in an embrace of joy and excitement, soaked in the brilliance of creativity. Tomorrow will hold its own adventures, and for now, as you drift into sleep, dreams of noodles, treasure, and laughter fill your mind, easily leading you to your next great escapade. As you recline in the warm glow of laughter and camaraderie, your attention shifts to a peculiar glint nestled in a nearby bush. You inch closer with a curious heart, and to your astonishment, you unearth a small, ornately decorated chest, just as a golden moonbeam casts its light upon it. Feeling like a character straight out of an epic tale, you carefully lift the lid of the chest. But instead of coins or jewels, you're met with a peculiar artifact, an ancient gourd, intricately carved with symbols you can't quite decipher. Looks like we struck gourd gold instead of the real deal, you joke, eliciting a round of chuckles from your friends. Is this a statue, a musical instrument, or maybe just a fancy container for soup? One of your pals wonders aloud. Everyone peers at the artifact as if it might sprout legs and run away. You feel a rush of excitement mixed with bewilderment. This ancient gourd isn't just displaying your misfortune. It's an opportunity for discovery. It's just a gourd, one rival merchant scoffs, but you can't help but lean in to feel its smooth surface. In 11th century China, each object held significance beyond mere currency. Just like that time my cousin tried to sell a rock but claimed it was a metaphor for life. You remark, earning another friendly laugh. While your friends debate the gourd's historical significance, you can't help but wonder how something so seemingly simple could have so many intertwined stories. Everyone brings forth theories, tossing ideas around like they're in a lively market, spirits buoyed by the thrill of a true enigma. Think about it, you say, adopting your best scholarly tone. Historians still argue whether gourd artifacts symbolize fertility or whether they're just really bad decorations for royal banquets. And here we are debating its value over dinner. As the evening stretches before you like the night sky, you decide it's time to dig deeper. You reach into your bag pocket and pull out a rather worn leather book you happen to bring along. It's your makeshift guide filled with notes about ancient artifacts. Let's see what our gourd friend can tell us. You flip through the pages while your friends gather around eagerly. With every historical tidbit you uncover, you find the debate intensifies like the aroma of roasted chestnuts. You read about other gourd artifacts unearthed during archaeological digs, their use in rituals, and how they played crucial roles in everyday life. Some might say this gourd is worth nothing in terms of currency, but if it holds the key to understanding ancient trade practices, maybe it's invaluable. Your friends nod appreciatively. There's a spark of excitement in their eyes. Amidst the discussions, you can't help but poke fun at the seriousness of it all. Who knew our treasure hunt would turn into a gourd symposium? Next thing you know, we'll be charging admission. This lightens the mood as laughter rings out, contrasting beautifully with the weight of history you're all pondering. As you continue exploring the tales of ancients long gone, you share quirky facts about strange artifacts from different cultures, like the Egyptian artifacts that included a pair of false teeth. Who knew they were an ancient version of a family heirloom? The stories weave together in the crisp night air, and your incredible discovery begins to feel monumental. The debate shifts as your friends start to envision what that ancient gourd could represent in the grand tapestry of your shared adventure. Imagine if we took it to a scholar. They'd either label us as the greatest treasure hunters this side of the Yangtze, or as two fools with a really bad cooking accessory. One of them muses, giggling at the absurdity of it all. As you cradle the gourd in your hands, the chaos of the night transforms into a gentle hum of excitement mixed with a sense of purpose. The artifact, while a simple object, begins to feel like a bridge connecting moments of laughter, teamwork, and joy. It speaks to the heart of adventure and friendship. By the time the moon hangs high above you, draping a silver sheen over your small crew, the atmosphere shifts. It's no longer about whether gold or artifacts hold more value. It's about the stories and memories you forge together, treasures far beyond material wealth. You share quiet chuckles, reflecting on your mischief against rival crews, and how a random discovery could create new lasting connections. Drifting into a comfortable silence, you can't help but marvel at how one little gourd helped redefine the concept of treasure in your hearts. Perhaps it's not about what you find, but rather who you find it with. Eventually, you all begin to nod off, lulled by the gentle sounds of the night, dreaming of artifacts, shared laughter, and future escapades yet to come. With the gourd nestled safely in your backpack, a laugh still lingering in the air, you and your quirky companion begin your journey home. The horizon blushes with the promise of adventure as the sun begins its descent, a canvas painted with warm hues of orange and pink. Your heart feels just a little lighter, buoyed by the laughter and camaraderie you've shared. Plus, let's be honest, there's something strangely satisfying about having just struck a historical gold mine. Well, if gold was really just an unusually round vegetable, you can't help but chuckle to yourself, thoughts drifting back to your hilariously improvised history lesson during the gourd debate. I wonder if this ancient treasure could help me sign up for a history class without having to actually sit in it. You muse to your companion, who rolls their eyes but laughs nonetheless, catching on to your brand of humor. As you walk along the winding path, your companion pulls out a tattered scroll from their bag, which they often refer to as their personal encyclopedia of oddities. Did you know that paper money was actually introduced in China during the Tang Dynasty? They say, eyes sparkling with excitement. Oh, absolutely. And who'd have thought that a thing we so easily dismiss could cause such confusion? Merchants must have felt like they suddenly got handed a ticket for a train that never existed. You picture a bewildered merchant trying to exchange a handful of unmarked slips of paper for goods. What a spectacle that would have been. Now that's a real currency crisis, your companion adds, swatting at imaginary flies buzzing around their head. Historians still argue whether the Chinese merchants fully understood how to use it, or if they just pretended to for the sake of convenience. Kind of like when I attempt to understand the plot of a complex movie, but just feign enlightenment all night. You both sidestep a puddle, your laughter echoing off the trees lining the trail. As the two of you wander through the quaint village that leads back home, you hear the foul cawing of crows overhead. Something about those birds always unsettles you. Was that a bad omen or just your dislike for their screeching? You muse that one should always be wary of a bird who looks like it could double as a grumpy tax collector. It's at that moment you feel a slight twinge of nostalgia. You remember sharing stories about a merchant who once attempted to barter chickens for paper money, only to be met with laughter and disbelief. Watching that unfold must have been quite the historical sitcom. I hope your gourd doesn't attract too much attention when we get back. We don't want to be known as the Curious Gourd Gang or something, you jest, and your companion nods solemnly in agreement. From a distance, the shapes of figures begin to emerge. Familiar faces among the locals who had surely noticed your extended absence and have gathered at the village square, likely waiting for tales of your adventure. As you step closer, you spot a few eager listeners leaning in, their faces animated with anticipation. This gathering, albeit small, feels significant. It's a small community brought together by a love of stories. You clear your throat dramatically, sensing the crowd's attention sharpen. Ladies and gentlemen, gather round, you call out, channeling the spirit of a CEO presenting a new product, or perhaps a camp counselor rallying the troops. What you don't expect is your companion bursting into a theatrical rendition of a dragon, complete with growls and flaps of their arms. Classic. Imitating a merchant's plight to understand paper money, you launch into an exaggerated recounting of your journey, tossing in vivid gestures and silly sounds. People didn't realize the paper was money. They thought it was just the beginning of a dry cleaning scam. You quip, and the crowd erupts into laughter. The reassuring warmth of shared joy envelops you as you wrap up the tale, and you hold up the gourd at the finish line, raising it triumphantly like a champion hoisting a trophy. And this little beauty symbolizes our bond, just like the paper money of old. You know, it may not have value in gold, but it's worth more in stories and friendships, right? With that, a gentle murmur of agreement ripples through the crowd. In the glow of camaraderie, you bask in an unexpected moment of feeling wholly appreciated. More than just the adventures and oddities, but you realize it's not just about where you've traveled, but who you've come back to share it with. As the evening drapes a cozy blanket over the village, you sit with your companion at the town square while others gather around, trading tales of their own. And as the stars begin to twinkle overhead, you can't help but feel a sense of gratitude. Here in this close-knit circle with laughter ringing in the air, you discover the most unexpected loot of all. A heart full of warmth, enriched by the stories shared, ready for whatever quirks the future might hold. As you reflect on your adventure through bustling Song Dynasty markets, you find yourself chuckling at the lively memories. Sure, the intent was to uncover the mysteries wrapped around these newfangled paper money transactions. But somewhere along the way, something even more valuable wrapped itself around you instead. Cast back to the start, the puzzled glances exchanged with fellow merchants, eyebrows raised as if climbing an imaginary ladder out of sheer confusion. They weren't just merchants, though. They became friends. Not paper friends, but the kind born out of shared confusion over strings of newly adopted Jaya-Ozi. Amongst the cacophony of market chatter, silk rustling like whispers of the past, clay coins clinking with promises never to be kept, the bonds of human connection quietly formed. Those days there evolved from being mere currency-laden missions to episodes where each subtle laugh, each miscalculation, turned into a story in itself. Take Sue, the whistling merchant, enthusiastically animated. Sue's tales were always more like dreams than history lessons, painting each note or transaction with a hue of humor. One evening, over a pot of particularly aromatic tea, probably the finest cabbage blend, Sue related a story of how, on the very first day, he mistakenly thought paper currency was some sort of fabric sales pamphlet. Honest mistake. We laughed until the tea was in serious danger of exiting through our noses. Tea-drinking escapades aside, your journey offers perspective, an understanding that history itself is a tapestry woven from everyday folks' threads, some silky, others a bit scratchy. Wu, the wise old vendor, always said, more unbelievable than flying money is the thought that back in antiquity people needed to lug around shells for transactions. Well, when you least expect it, that wisdom comes in handy. Now, let's stay on the historical stage for a second. Did you know that Marco Polo, that adventurer of adventurers, included baffled accounts of paper money in his travel writings? He suggested that the currency held as much value as the emperor's decree. It was like a medieval emperor-stamped miracle. And speaking of miracles, remember Zhu. He was never shy about expressing his disdain for paper money, likening it to sneakily smuggling air. His reasoning, you couldn't hear it jingle. The reality was that these jingling coins were making way for lighter, albeit perplexing, alternatives. Whenever currency transactions were slated for dull chatter, Zhu's storytelling prowess transformed them into epic sagas. To him, each note was less about purchasing power and more about those who dared trust it. Now, historians still argue whether the skepticism surrounding paper money arose from skepticism about the paper itself, or from suspicions that one might accidentally blow their life's savings away in a sudden gust of wind. You'd think a bunch of serious people would agree by now, but it's not so easy balancing on a seesaw of scholarly debate. On one particularly blustery afternoon, Our misfit merchant team faced a small hurricane, by market standards, fortified with humor and negotiation skills. Ironic given the whole, let's use paper, not heavy objects thing. Jing was convinced that wind was an invisible emperor-ordained agent of chaos, and betwixt conspiratorial whispers and twitchy glances, we played keep away with the flying, flapping notes. As the day drew to a close, much like twilight naturally wraps the sky in soft hues, your adventure knew its own subtle conclusion. Because when we're nestled snugly between teaching moments, like those rooted in stark realities and open-air currency acrobatics, the laughter shared holds more value than any coin or note, paper or shell. In this sleepy symphony of shared experiences, the real treasure is clear, connection, and memory immortalized in a shared smile. It's this kernel of truth that's lodged in the laughter between comrades navigating the blurry lines of past and present. That soft laughter carries stories, effortlessly ferrying us across the dividers of time, where paper money is only as important as the hands that greet it with curiosity and an occasional chuckle. So, as you lay your head back, shift comfortably and let the laughter of history lull you, confident that tomorrow's adventures promise yet more tales. History finding its way into the whimsy of things, those moments where shadows drift quietly sideways and the gentle dance of the past remains timeless. As you drift deeper into the velvety embrace of your bed, your mind begins to wander beyond the flickering candlelight and whispers of paper bills from 11th century China. You imagine a world where every dusty shelf and cobbled path reveals mysteries yet untold. Each ancient scroll is but an invitation to journey further, and you might find yourself pondering how many lost treasures lie beneath layers of dust and time. The room quiets, cradling you softly as your thoughts drift to the bustling bazaars of the Silk Road, where merchants once traded stories as eagerly as they traded silk and spices. You can almost hear the chatter as traders speak in a medley of tongues, their gestures painting tales of lands far and unknown. Ah, the beauty of history's reach. It covers not only the aisles of goods, but the very air you breathe in this quiet room. It's a comforting thought, this notion that the past is vast yet touchable, waiting just a whisper away. The legends of Marco Polo perhaps tickle your fancy. Did he really meet Kublai Khan, or was that merely a tall tale spun by the campfire? Though Marco Polo himself might attest with his adventurous gaze, historians still argue whether his accounts are historically sound, or just another entertaining tale to sell a book. As soft moonlight spills through your window, you dream of sailing across the vast sea, chasing not only treasure but knowledge as the greatest explorers before you did. A paradoxical union of water and wind guiding you, leading with promises of new lands. What a time it must have been to sail alongside Magellan on his daring quest. And you hear, through the lullabies of history's tide, how maybe Ferdinand liked to hum tunes, somewhat off-key, much to the chagrin of his crew. Such dreams fuel the adventure within you, inspiring an exploration of not only history, but also your inner depths. The dim echoes of the medieval past remind you that each historical find is like uncovering a piece of yourself. Could it be that the warrior queens of old left whispers of guidance, running their fingers along life strands like Athena granting wisdom? From ancient battlefields to the quiet halls of scholars, past rulers and scholars alike walked paths that now live unseen under morning dew. Cleopatra, perhaps, loved to breeze through the gardens at twilight, devising cleverness amidst the roses, plotting her world-renowned charm offensive under Alexandria's sky. You can almost smell the jasmine as you realize. Legends float in the night are both history and dreams made anew each time they're retold. As your eyelids begin to grow heavy like Cleopatra's eyelids under her crown, your mind wanders to wonder, the open-ended saga of history, where theoretical debates gallop like errant horses across scholarly plains. Take, for instance, the debate over the real purpose of Stonehenge. Was it a celestial calendar, a burial ground, or just a rather pricey hedge that happened to be made of stone, your thoughts loop through time, like a serene river rolling over a sunlit bridge. And as each stone slides smoothly beneath the current of your daydream, you're reminded that learning soothes more than it strains. It invites you to relax and explore at your own pace. Before sleep claims you, a grin stretches across your face, tickled by the thought of Columbus anxiously peering over the rail of the Santa Maria, perhaps worrying if he'd left his compass back at the tavern. Historians might debate endlessly about which detail mattered most, but as you drift into gentle slumber, all that matters is where your dreams take you next. You're afloat, woven into a world that stretches back into antiquity and forward into limitless possibilities, all within your mind's expansive nightscape. And just like that, you're ready to journey to tomorrow's mysteries, each night a gateway to another time, another wonder. Sleep well, young explorer, for history waits patiently till dawn. You meander through a tranquil marketplace, the warm glow of lantern light casting gentle shadows on the cobbled paths. As you watch the merchants swish their paper money, you can't help but smile at the sight of the bewildered expressions that dance across their faces. Amidst the hustle, one vendor stumbles over a pile of silk, mumbling about the joys of money that floats like a butterfly but stings like a bee. It's a curious scene, hinting at a time when coins were kings, and the only thing more confusing than currency was probably the merchants' hairstyles. You close your eyes for a moment, picturing the bags of coins jingling merrily, while these flimsy notes flutter about like poetic little ghosts, causing both excitement and utter confusion. Historians still argue whether the advent of paper money was the stride towards convenience or the start of financial chaos, as if they were debating whether pineapple belongs on pizza. Let's agree to disagree on that one too. Did you know some believe that the earliest use of paper for money can be traced to a simple grocery list left behind in a dusty old market? While that list might not have had the same purchasing power, it certainly adds a quirky twist to our understanding of trade. And as you linger in this thought, you feel a peaceful heaviness settle in your limbs, coaxing you closer to slumber, where worries fade like echoes in the night. You are nestled safely in a world where paper is precious, and coins are just nostalgic relics of safety. Allow the gentle whispers of history to cradle you into dreams where confusion becomes clarity, and the beauty of the past wraps around you like a cozy blanket, drifting you softly into the realm of rest.